Hello, Citizen Media News. I am here with Zach Vorhies. He's infamous. He's the infamous Zach. Why are you infamous?
Because I blew the whistle on Google and let you know that they were merging artificial intelligence and CRT in a program they called Machine Learning Fairness. And they were unleashing that onto the internet. They pretty much, it's now complete with the rollout, but I was coming out to warn you, the American people, that Google was up to no good and that there was a takeover of the internet in progress. And Roger, what do you think about that prediction?
Well, I predict your life is going to be hell since then, right? Has it been up to, right?
It's been interesting.
Yeah. Before we get into that part of it, interested in knowing a little bit about you. Who's Zach? Where are you from? Like, how did you get into computers and how did you get into all this stuff? Like what, when did you get into it? Way back when you were a kid, or is it more recent, or what?
I was a kid. Essentially, I started off as a gamer, and then I started building computers in high school, like just, putting the graphics card together on the motherboard and the RAM and all this other stuff. And then I started building computers for my friends' dads because I was a computer whiz, but I didn't actually start getting into programming until I was 17. One of my nerdy friends taught me how to program the TI-83 with formulas so that I could do the calculations really fast. And I went from this like mediocre D student in math, like DC, to like the A student who was finishing the test faster than everyone else. And the teacher was like, what's going on here, right? And it was because I was literally going through and becoming obsessive with, plugging in the law of cosines, for example, in the calculator. And so when I have a problem, it would like give me like a problem. And then I would just like figure out which program would solve that. And then I would enter in that program and then put in the inputs, and then it would spit out the answer, and I would just do the answer. So while everyone was like sitting there with like, paper, doing all of their work, I was just simply going through. And then when the teacher started catching on to it, it's like, you need to really show your work here. I actually developed like the next programs that I was developing would actually spit out the work as well. And so it was just like I put it in and automated. So I was like, oh my gosh, this is so much fun. And I really found out that I was obsessed and really interested in this TI-83 programming. And so I was like, you know what? I'm going to combine my love of gaming with programming and become a game programmer. And so I went to college to become a game programmer, and found my calling, and eventually got into the gaming industry. And then I went to Google. I had my chance to go to Google. It was amazing. I went down to California to follow my dream. I was originally from Portland. And it just turns out that this programming thing is just something that I'm really, really, really good at. It's like a gift from God. And it's a great gift too.
So other than the math thing, when you were a kid, like what's something fun that like really engaged you into programming? Like what was one thing that you created, or one thing that you were engaged with that really other than the math portion, what solidified you?
That was it. That was, well, I mean, it was building computers, and it was literally programming these math solutions into the calculator.
Okay.
I mean, I just became obsessed with that. For some reason, it was like so fun. I would just sit there for hours and just like, build this program with inputs and outputs and all this other stuff. It was just so much fun,
So now, how did you transition? You just mentioned that you had worked at Google. So what was the path from becoming a 17-year-old programmer to Google? And how old were you when? How long was that?
I was like 26 or 27 when I worked at Google.
So it was about 10 years it took you to get there.
Mm-hmm.
So what did you do during that time?
So 7 years of college, which resulted in 3 majors: a major in mathematics, a major in psychology, and a major in computer science. So math, comp sci, psychology.
So math and psychology, huh? So you can tell people why math is hard, huh?
Yeah, exactly. Well, also the computer science and math departments had a lot of dudes. So, I always loved the psychology classes because they had a bunch of crazy chicks in there. So it literally converted from like a way to get credits to fulfill my science majors to, well, I'll just like get a minor because it's not that much more. And I'll be like, well, geez, I just get a major because it's not much more than a minor. And I had a really great job. So I was working in the computer room and I was working like 20 hours a week. And it was really comfortable. And I didn't really need to get a job right away. And also, when I went and applied for this little game studio in Eugene, Oregon called Pipeworks, it turns out that like I wasn't strong enough in math the first time around. And that's the reason why I ended up getting my major in math, was because I wanted to do all the vector calculus that they were testing me on and be able to just like, solve the problem immediately, which I did end up on doing on the second go around for that same company. And they ended up hiring me. But then it just didn't work out. I got this new boss and I hated him and he didn't like me. And I was also a little bit green. So I made some mistakes. Then I was out. But then I got a job at Lucasfilm down in San Francisco, which brought me down to the Bay Area. That happened around 2006. That turned out to be just an absolute grind beyond all belief. And I started looking for other work and Google bit, right? Like
what'd you do with Lucasfilms? Because that's George Lucas, Star Wars and stuff, right?
Yeah, I was working on the Star Wars game and also worked on the
Okay.
Indiana Jones game that never shipped. And so, yeah, and that experience was amazing. Like they had this like Yoda statue in the Presidio. It's incredible. Now it's owned by Disney, and they also had like a theater, like on premise, and all these famous people would come through like once a week. It was so awesome. But I didn't like the day-to-day like work itself. And so I ended up getting a job with Google. And then that was, and I actually like slid right into Google. Because of my mathematics background, matching very closely the mathematics that they have you do when you come into the interviews, because it's all like, algorithms in pseudocode, because you're not going to compile it. It's going to be like, you got 15 minutes to solve the problem. And I was so good at that they pretty much just hired me after 2 interviews. So it was like a phone screen. And then I came in and I nailed that. And then it was just like, okay, let's get you into the hiring committee. And I went to work in the Google Earth department, taking Google Earth and putting it onto the Audi A8 car. And then it trickled down, and I think they still have them. I'm not entirely sure, but it was the best car navigation.
What do you mean? Oh, the GPS in the car or the camera on top of the car when it went around driving?
No. So it's like Google Earth. So it's like a map, which is a 3D mapping system.
Right.
It's people think it's Google Maps when I talk about Google Earth, but there's actually another product that's not Google Maps called Google Earth, and it's a 3D globe that you can zoom in on. And they had it for these beefy computers, but they wanted to run it on this little underpowered weekly computer that was embedded in the Audi cars, in the Audi system. And so we took the desktop code base and we, modified it until it ran fast on that mobile entertainment system. They called it infotainment. And so my crowning achievement during that 5.5 years was I literally saved the project for Audi, because what had happened was there was a miscommunication, and we thought that we were going to get 100% of a 600 megahertz CPU, but it turns out we were time sliced to 1/3. And all of a sudden it was like, oh, we're running at essentially 200 megahertz. And
what does that mean? What does that mean in English? What you just said?
What that means is that, like, let's say you think you've got like 100, let's say you think you got an 80 horsepower engine, but instead you've got like a 30 horsepower engine. And you're like, oh, we can't get up the hill unless we lose some weight. The exact same thing happened, right? They're like, oh, it's underpowered now and it's too choppy and we're going to lose the whole project. Zach, do you have any like tricks up your sleeve? And it turns out that I was really obsessed with the inefficiency of the roads. And I was trying to convince my boss at the time that we should like fix the road system so that we could run super fast. Well, he was like, well, that's beyond the minimal specs. So we don't need it. So I was like,
what do you mean the inefficiency of the roads?
So the way that the roads that were placed on the earth were these like little tiny segments. And so what you would think was like just a continuous road turned out to be like hundreds like even like up to 1,000, like little tiny sections of the road that were like this small little thing.
In the software
And
program you're talking.
in the software, it was the
Okay.
data. It was the data coming from Audi, because even though we were providing the surface 3D stuff, they were providing the actual road data that was being overlaid on top of that. But the roads that they were using were all chopped up in these like just like one segment, but then they had like all these different segments all the way down that were each individual triangles. And they were they're doing all this calculation, like clamping the triangle to the ground and doing all this other stuff. And it was really inefficient because in order to render a frame, it had to like recompute the exact same thing over and over and over each individual frame. And what I realized is that most of the state wasn't changing at all. It was pretty much, whatever the data was on this, you go into the next frame, it's pretty much the exact same thing. And so I came up with this scheme to combine all of the geometry of the data into these long strips. So it was like taking these tiny, like little cutouts of the roads and then turning them into one giant road that's a continuous road. And because of that combination, that glomming, if you will, that glomming of the roads together made it run like 1/100th of the speed. You made
it seamless. You made it seamless.
Made it seamless, but it actually looked the same, surprisingly, because just the way that it was, because of the roads were so close. But I made it seamless, and that basically took the road generation that used to take up an entire like 2/3 of the frame and turned it down to 0. And so because I eliminated most of the processing work every single frame, we were actually able to run on a 200 megahertz CPU at 12 frames per second. Like we just barely were able to meet the minimum requirements of the project. And so as a result of that, I saved the Audi project, and then I got a promotion.
200 megahertz. How long ago was that?
This was in 2009.
All right. And now what are computers running at now?
So I've got, so it would be 3,500 times, like, let's say 6 on the average thing. So it's a lot more power that we've got now.
Gotcha. Just trying to, get a sense of the dynamics of the speed back then that you were dealing with and what we're dealing with now.
Yeah, 200 versus 3,500 times 6, right? Like whatever that number is, it's huge. It was like we were working like 3% of the power of like a desktop computer or something.
You like, when I always talk about megahertz and the speed on the computer, like when I explain it to my dad, it's like, well, the 200 was like being on a dirt road, and the 3,500 times 6 is like being on an 8-lane highway in California.
Yeah.
Not during rush hour traffic, but when,
or the difference between like the Nissan Leaf and like an F-150 or something, like, beefier.
Right.
Yeah. And so, we saved the project. I got promoted. And then when the project was released, we made so much money that it got promoted to the earnings report for the with the call with the company on the shareholders. So they're like, well, we actually made a surprising amount of money in the Geo department thanks to the Audi project. And so then I put in, and then that's when I got my second promotion. And man, they were giving me so much stock at the time, and it was like worth like I was getting stock at $175 a share in options. And in 2013, I decided that I was going to start my own company and sort of gamble with my future. And so I started this product company called Zacky's Turn Signal Gloves, which was an LED panel on the back of your glove. And we ended up selling 8,000 units. So it was actually fairly successful. It's just, we had some manufacturing problems and it went south. So I ran out of money in 2016, and there was an open invitation to come back to Google. It was just one of the things that they do. Like if you go through the hiring process once, then they're just going to onboard you. So like you call them up, you're like, hey, I need my old job back. And they're like, great, where do you want to work within the company? And so I said, well, I want to work at YouTube because it's at the forefront of this revolution of, a second renaissance, if you will, of intellectual thought. And I was like, yeah, I want to be part of that YouTube. That sounds so amazing. And so I got on this embedded YouTube player that eventually, well, it was an embedded YouTube player within the Xbox 360, the Xbox One, I think is what it was. The Xbox One, the Nintendo Switch, and the PlayStation 4. And so I was part of that team, and we ended up, handling 10% of all of the traffic going into YouTube because it was generated by those game consoles. When I went to work in 2016, it was August, and everything was still normal except this election going on with Hillary Clinton and Donald Trump. And when Trump had a surprise victory, Google lost their collective freaking minds. And they started going to the dark side and started censoring and started building the secret project called Machine Learning Fairness, which is the combining of critical race theory with artificial intelligence. Absolutely nasty. And when I saw it, I couldn't believe my eyes. It was like, am I dreaming? And then it was like, no, this is actually happening. And so what I did is I realized that I needed to start saving this because it was so evil. I couldn't imagine that they would leave it on the servers for much longer. So I just started downloading all this stuff. And I didn't really have a purpose to the collecting. I wasn't planning on blowing the whistle in 2017 when I started my data collection of their documents.
Let me ask you this. So you were working in YouTube at that point in time, and you were starting to download all this information.
Yeah.
And so all this stuff happened on the YouTube side of Google?
No, Machine Learning Fairness was like a centralized artificial intelligence. And what I saw was that they had all these communications to managers about how they were going to talk about machine learning fairness, how they're going to migrate all their stuff to use machine learning fairness in every aspect of the company. Machine learning fairness was going to be used for news, for search, for YouTube videos. Whenever you put a YouTube video up there and it gives you a strike, very quickly, within 5 seconds of the upload, that's because Google has created a machine learning classifier that's running on that video and detecting certain things like hate speech or right-wing content or whatever. And so you upload a video and it's going to 50 some odd different classifiers are going to run, and they get populated into a matrix, and you're able to see, for the Rubin report, that was right-wing commentary. That's how they did it. And so, I would be asked, why is the video, because a couple of content creators like Dave Rubin knew that I had this access. And so they were like, hey, why is my video getting demonetized? And I was able to actually go into the matrix and see which classifier fired and let them know. And so, so this wasn't just a YouTube thing. This was over the entire Google corporation, of which YouTube was just one of the appendages that they were injecting this into.
This language learning matrix, was it initially intended to be a good thing, or was it really created because of Donald Trump's victory?
It was literally, well, no, it existed. This S curve when something explodes, right? So it turns out that they had been secretly developing machine learning fairness since 2014. And it started off as a Stanford project with their ethicists. And so they created this machine learning fairness, and then it got brought into Google somehow and had been kind of festering slowly. And then Donald Trump won the election, and then they cranked it up all the way to 11. We got to get this machine learning fairness into every corner of the company. And what was really interesting is that while machine learning fairness was the actual name of their AI censorship tool, what they were telling everyone on the outside was that their censorship engine was called Project Dragonfly, and it was only being used in China. The problem with Project Dragonfly is that from my vantage point within the company, I was never able to find a shred of evidence that Project Dragonfly ever existed at all. It seemed like a ghost to me. But this machine learning fairness, man, holy cow, it was huge. It was across multiple departments. They had all these communications to upper management about how to implement this directive. And
So let me ask
so,
you this.
yeah,
So if you're saying that this was created for nefarious reasons, how did you gain access to it? Like, why did they
yeah.
include you? Uh, did somebody forget to switch a switch and turn it off so you didn't have access, or didn't they were just too cocky, or what was it?
Eric Schmidt, the former CEO of Google, was instrumental in creating a different kind of corporate structure that existed within Google that doesn't exist in, say, like, it's pretty much the opposite of a company like Apple. Apple's super secret. Like, don't ask your neighbor what they're working on. Don't talk about it. Don't even tell your family what you're working on. Like, super compartmentalized, super hierarchical. Google is the exact opposite. It's a company that's being run by engineers. And in order to gain the efficiency of these engineers, what they've done is they've made everything open by default. So, you create a Google Doc, it pretty much is open, to the company. And so what happened is that these true believers that made this machine learning fairness just put it all out there on the internet, and they were sharing it. And so they had, this link where anyone within the corpus could view all of their different documents. In fact, we have a special system for hosting internal documents within Google called a Go link. So, usually you type in HTTP / whatever. This one was Go / some name. So, and that was meant to be like almost like private public documentation for, so you had to be a full-time employee to be able to access this Go system. But once you have that, you're able to pretty much see what anyone is working on, their OKRs, their objective and key results, their badges that they've won, how many change lists they've done for code, what their code reviews look like. Like, everything is fully transparent. It's pretty amazing. And so when Google was like, okay, we got to be like censoring people now and using this, machine learning fairness, they didn't actually bother to change the corporate structure of the company to one that was going to remain secret. They just pretty much like said, okay, we're going to censor now. But they kept on putting all this stuff in public spaces within the corporate internet. And so as a regular full-time employee, like, I did not work, I wasn't even working on these censorship things. I was working on the YouTube app for Xbox, PlayStation 4, and, Nintendo Switch. But as a regular full-time employee, I had just standard access to all this stuff. And I was just like, oh my God, I can't believe that they're actually doing this. Like, this is something I have in Orwell book.
Was it by mistake, or?
I was literally searching for Project Dragonfly. That's how I found machine learning fairness.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Right. Wow.
Yeah. Wow. So, I disclosed all of this in 2019 to the public through Project Veritas and to the DOJ. I dropped 950 pages printed out with some memory cards. And what I've been doing essentially since coming out is I've been complaining about the censorship, just like everyone else. But that doesn't do a lot to solve the problem, does it?
No. Well, before, like, I want to switch over to this one screen here. I want you to walk me through something. Okay. Let's see if I can get this to work here.
And by the way, if you guys are watching, I've launched a website. We're going to get to it, but we're getting some background. So stay tuned, because I promise it's going to be one of the most entertaining 3 minutes you've had today, probably the whole week.
Okay. All right. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch the screen here. Okay. Can you see that?
Yep.
All right. So this is a little video of, I went to inaugural ball in 2017, and this video, if it's only 15 seconds long, but it was the crowd was standing on the curb, and the crowd was throwing various liquid forms of bodily fluids at people. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
As we were walking. So, but that's not the point of the video. So what I want to show you is, okay, so I'm uploading this video. Okay. So you upload the video. This is the details. I put all the things, all this like journalism-y stuff that I learned to put in here so then you click next. This is your monetization. So I click on, okay. So then I click next. All right. And so that tells you all there. Then this is the thing that I want you to look at. This is what I think we're talking about. This is the part that aggravates the living daylights out of me. So
Okay,
you
what's
see,
that?
this is the ad suitability. This is basically that what you were talking about of like I'm supposed to self-identify
Yeah.
what my censorship is going to be. All right. So look at all this stuff here. So inappropriate language, adult content, violence, shock content, harmful, recreational drugs, enabling, controversial issues. Look at this here. Content discussing, preventing controversial issues, content where the controversial issues are mentioned fleeting in a video or, okay. So normally, like I click on one of these usually. Now, the reason why I'm showing this is because you just said that this AI, right? I forget what you called it. You just called
The
it
classifier.
right.
And
It classifies this stuff instantaneously. Watch this. Okay. I click submit and it's going to tell me is my ad suitable or not, or my video suitable. Yep. There you go. Okay. So now I can continue on. There's times that I put something up here that it doesn't agree and it won't let me move forward. You know, ad suitability. There we go. Suitable for ads. Okay. Because I self-identify. But the scary part for me is that it just did it instantaneously.
Right.
Like you were saying. And that's the part that scares the living daylights out of me. And then you can go here and click that and stuff like that. But I just, you know, when you were talking about this, you know, that's what I was, you know.
Yeah. And this is the way it is now, right? When this system was being put into place in 2017, it was like, they were moving so quickly that it's, you know, they were cutting corners, right? Because they didn't have this fancy UI where you could self-identify what the video was. It was just like, they've got this AI matrix that's running on these videos. And if it doesn't like your video, they don't have the resources to tell you even why it's been banned. They don't even want to give that trade secret away. They're just going to, you know, get rid of it. And,
yeah, they do that all the time to me. It's like, why did you ban? Tell me why so I can fix it. Okay. But they don't even give you that.
Right. Exactly. They don't want to let that cat out of the bag. So, you know, now they've got some ways for you to self-annotate your video so they can keep you honest. And it, you know, when you've got a human assisting in the annotation, that makes the processing of the video like way faster for these AI systems.
Right. The part, like I said, the part that scares me isn't so much that I'm self-identifying my videos, is the fact that when I do self-identify, it can determine that as quick as possible.
Yeah.
I mean, like instantaneous. That's freaking.
Well, there's also latency hiding. So what you can do is you can submit a video, and then as you're like flipping through the knobs, like it's actually uploaded the video and then running it. But then when you hit next, that's when it actually shows you what's going on. So you could get into a situation where you just like copy and paste all the fields really quickly, and then you hit next, and then it says, "Oh, still processing." You know what I mean?
Yeah. So now on my YouTube channel, the next thing that scares me, and I don't know if this is the same area of what we're talking about, I have 12,000 subscribers, which is pretty impressive, right? For a little channel like myself. I'll post a video up and it'll get 15 views. And it's just mathematically impossible for me to only get 15 views if there's not something going on in the background, especially when I share.
How many subscribers do you have?
12,000.
Okay.
So,
yeah,
you know,
they're throttling it down.
So, and especially when I go out and I advertise and I post a YouTube link on all the social media sites, right? And it's just, I can't understand how that's possible. So how does that happen? What is going on in the background? Why, the simpler term is called shadow banning, correct?
Yeah, what's happening in the background to get shadow banned? Well, it's these classifiers, as far as I know, because that's what I saw was happening. Is that, you know, these there's classifiers that will get you demonetized. And it's kind of like a ranking score. Like if you have a bunch of really bad scores, then, you know, boom, it's going to result in a strike. And there's almost like a threshold. Like if one or two like classifiers goes, you know, red, which is my term, if it goes red, then it may not total enough points to get removed. It may just get demonetized. Right. And so what was your question again about that?
but this is why I'm so intrigued about spending some time with you, is because I actually have this whole thing happening to me constantly, and I can't understand why. And so this background shadow banning process algorithms that are going on, you're kind of explaining why this is going on. That's been going on since 2016 when President Trump first won, and I'm living the dream, or the nightmare, as you might speak. So this is why I'm really intrigued to talk to you, because it's happening to me. I know it's happening to a lot of other people like Laura Loomer and all those people like that. So,
and the only way we can make it not happen as much is to make sure that we've got worthy competitors, so that when Google's like, we're going to twist the towel that all the water falls out into another towel, and like, oh my God, we just lost all these customers. Right.
So a worthy competitor could be something like a website called
Blast.Video.
Blast.Video. There we go. There's Blast.Video.
Yep, there it is. It's just released this morning, Tuesday, March 29th.
All right. It was only 30 minutes to take us to get there, but I love getting to know people a little bit, first. To see what their background is and how we got to the point where Blast.Video was created. So how did this how did you get to BlastVideo from being the whistleblower to now to Blast.Video?
Okay, so I blew the whistle on Google, and I've been after pretty much Joe Biden got in, installed. I was like, well, we need to have an alternative systems that's resistant to censorship. And I thought that maybe Rumble and BitChute might be the way to go. But what happened was I noticed that I started playing this social media shuffle, where I would take out my phone and I had all these links, and I just went to one link after another. And I was spending hours to be able to figure out like what everyone was talking about, every single day. And it wasn't like, you content creators would stop posting content. Like, despite the fact that you guys are banned from YouTube, you guys would still post on BitChute. And even if you guys, like, it was so sad to see like Sean of SGT Report, he was getting like 75,000 views a video, and then he got punked into BitChute and he was doing like less than 100. And I'm just like, God, that's got to be demoralizing. But content creators, the success is always the same. They just can't stop posting video like day in and day out. Right. And I see it over and over again.
Just as a point of clarification. So let me go back to this. You see right here, this is the list of all the social media that, like, for example,
oh my gosh.
So there you go. Facebook, Twitter, CloudHub, Pure Social, MeWe, BitChute, Gab, YouTube, Telegram, TikTok, Vimeo, Rumble. There's getters in here now, so
yep. It's funny. What's funny is that all of that can actually be automated with a tool called Selenium, and it's like on my to-do list. Like, it's a big problem, but theoretically you could upload a video into a program and put all the metadata in there, and then it will actually go and open up a web browser, put in your username and password, log in, and then go from site to site to site, uploading your content automatically.
Wow.
And I want to do that because it's a really big pain in the ass. But before I concentrate on removing the pain of content creators to put the video out there, what I really want to do is solve the problem for the consumer. Like, your audience members want to find you. And if you get kicked off of YouTube, the BitChute searching algorithm is not that good. The Rumble searching algorithm is not that good. Like, they're going to have a really hard time finding you. And so for me, I was like, well, I need to create this centralized location that scans all the other platforms, creating almost like a meta platform.
But these other platforms, though, do not have the high level of monetization that a YouTube does it? Do they?
It's coming though. I mean, I think that's it's getting better. I think that it's getting better.
Because I will tell you this, I lucked out once. Okay. As much as I'm complaining about 15 views on one video, I had a video that hit the viral stream and I got 1.5 million hits and I made $1,200 that month, and it was just incredible. And I don't understand what I did or how I did it and why they allowed that one through, because the next video got 76 hits, and I don't understand. So
Yeah.
but how is the monetization coming through the BitChute and Rumble and all these other sites?
It's not yet, but it will come. I mean, right now, a lot of people are doing in-stream ads, which are actually inline ads. So it's like they say, oh, and then we're going to talk to our sponsor now, and then it runs in the video and blah, 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 blah. That is actually the best way for people to monetize at this point. And the reason why it's the best way is because the ad experience is just so broken for conservatives, not only on YouTube, but for any of the other channels. Rumble wants to, Rumble was, I'm not going to criticize Rumble, but what Rumble decided to do was they wanted to put the amount of money that each video made. It was like less than $1 for a lot of videos. And it was like, why even put $1? Like, oh, I made $1, right? Don't spend it all at once.
Yeah.
And so I think that the challenge of a lot of these things is that they're really not optimizing the experience for the audience member or the content creator. And I think that the reason why they're not optimizing that is because they're tackling the hard problem of what we call big N, which is like N is the population size of, whatever. So you can think of N as like the population size of the number of videos that exist on the YouTube database cluster, right? Like it was like the amount of videos that they were getting every single second was just absolutely unfathomable, right?
Right.
And so what I realized is that if I could take this, and this is the problem that BitChute, Brighteon, and Rumble were trying to do, is they're trying to copy this exact same business model where that you could put in all of your videos for cat videos and, and also with the political commentary. And when YouTube did the purge, they're not going to purge the cat videos. They're just going to purge the influencers that are, engaging in politics. Well, I thought that there was going to be like thousands of people, doing all these videos, but it turns out that when you get down to it, it's like hundreds, it's like 250, big time people that are in the space. And once you got that, pretty much it's hard to find. It gets a lot harder to find these other channels with size. It's like you're digging for gold almost, and you're pretty much been mining out the entire thing. So what I realized is that we didn't have to have an alternative to YouTube in all the same feature set. We just had to have an alternative for YouTube's conservative political section, right? Like that niche market that I formed. And because it's only 250, that end size is only 250, which means that everything scales down to a very, very, very small fraction of the database requirements that you're going to need for a YouTube clone. And that's what Blast.Video is. It's essentially a cross-platform recommendation engine. And I was even able to shrink it even more by skipping all of the hosting requirements for content. So you may notice that Blast.Video is kind of like the Drudge Report, but for video. And the reason why is because if I'm not storing actual data myself, I'm just storing the metadata, the view count, the duration, all this other stuff, then it just turns out that I can run a website that has almost no bandwidth costs for a sizable amount of people. And then as it scales, I'm not going to be like, oh, I'm drowning in, expenses and bills. It's able to scale up, even if I get like floods of millions of users because of the way that I've designed the site. It's going to be able to stand up to that really, really well. And it is so far. And so, that's how Blast.Video works, and how I was able to deliver it. The experience is that instead of having like, hundreds of thousands of content creators, I only have 250, and the result is what you see before you.
So now I'm looking here, source says YouTube. I see BitChute. I see a Rumble here.
Mm-hmm.
So you're not hosting any of the videos. These other platforms are. It's just you're compiling
links.
The links.
Yeah.
So that doesn't necessarily. So this video here, Will Smith slaps Chris Rock. So if YouTube censors that video, this will become a dead link. Is that what happens?
That actually, yeah, it gets cleared out. And the way that I want to solve that in the future is I want to do multi-channel merging for content creators. Like you just
Okay.
listed off like, 7 different social medias that you're posting to. What I'd like to do is to take all those 7 channels, like let's say you've got Rumble and you've got BitChute and you've got YouTube, and basically you're posting the same video 3 different times.
Right.
So, your title is going to be the same because you're copying and pasting. The descriptions are going to be the same. And so I can take these signals and combine them and say, okay, well, is this actually the same video with a heuristic? And if the heuristic's like, yeah, it's probably the same video with like 97% confidence level, then boom, they get merged and their view counts get. And then what's interesting with a multi-channel video like that is that if you lose the YouTube source, then maybe you still have the Rumble source and maybe you still have the BitChute source.
Well, how do you get around? How does Blast get around the censoring? Is that what you just talked about? Is that how you're getting around the censoring, or how do you get around the censoring? How are you doing that?
Yeah. So pretty much, there's a shadow banning that's going on with these videos. So even if a channel exists on a YouTube, there's no guarantee that you're going to be able to actually access it because they're shadow banning, they're keeping their thumb. But the thing is that if you're actually trying to pull data from YouTube, you're pulling it on a per channel basis because they've got these RSS feeds. And so, I can just go to your channel, Roger, and just like say, I just want to download all the available videos that appear on the video tab of your channel. And then boom, I got them. So there's no, like, if I know where I'm going, there's no censorship in that. And I pull your videos and then I can say, well, I'm going to look at your videos and see which ones have a surprise number of views. And that's actually the trending algorithm right there is, there's a lot of magic in there, but if you want to distill it to the spiritual component, it's looking for a surprising amount of views within a trend of videos. So if you've got a video that does twice as many views, then my trending algorithm says, oh, that needs to be boosted all the way to the trending page. So that's the way that I get around censorship, is that I'm actually pulling from the creators themselves, like an archive.
Let's see. So, all right. So we're like Fox News. There's a couple Fox News got 116,000 views, but Lionel Nation has 2,700 views. So what's the difference? So what are you referring to?
Yeah.
Here?
So for example, the naive way is that you would just pick the videos with the highest number of views, and then that's it. The problem is that you're always going to get Fox News. You're always going to get these establishment players, and it's not going to be that good. What I want, where the trends are, like, let's say that you click the Sticks Hexenhammer. See where it says, yeah, like right there.
His name or the title?
His name.
Okay.
It's going to bring you to his channel. Okay. And so, if we were to look at this, which videos pop out to you?
Well, they all look the same, but if I'm looking at the numbers, this one here, 88,000
right there.
views.
That's right. So you actually intuitively know how to do a ranking engine. I'm actually just creating a software version of what you just did in your head. I looked at his trends of videos and I said, what's the average? Okay, now which videos are highly above the average, which I call a surprise factor. It's those surprise factor videos that are actually the ones that need to trend. And so that's the detection. That's the trending algorithm. And the benefits of that is that you never, ever, ever miss a trending video because they all follow the same pattern. You just can't look globally like at all the videos across all the different content creators. You got to do it for the same content creator and look at the surprising videos that exist within his timeline. And you just pick those out, you put that to the trending page. And now and if you go back to the training page, what you'll notice is that that's the reason why Sticks, Hexenhammer or Lionel Nation is going to be able to compete with these Fox News people because, because it's a surprise within its own category.
You know what I find that's kind of interesting where's Sticks and Hammer now? Where did he go? He moved here.
I was at the top.
Was he at the top? He's moved. The algorithms moved him. The one thing that I noticed, and I don't know if this is a factor, is when you're posting videos and you're doing, your research of how do you get your video seen better, is there's always that thing about putting a good thumbnail. So you see like double standard, don't say this. See, these are all good thumbnails. The thing that stood out to me about Sticks and Hammer, none of his videos have thumbnails on them. It's just him and his long hair.
Yeah, I know. It's crazy. When I saw that same thing too. And it's like, how does he not even have a title card on his video?
Yeah, here he is, right here.
The thing is that, yeah, the thing is that
look at this one here. It looks like it's,
yeah, click that, watch what happens when you click that.
The title.
Just click the video.
Okay. Video unavailable.
Yeah.
Oh, it was removed by him. So that's not good. So
that video will be detected. That video just went down probably, which is why it looks like that.
Right.
And so probably what happened is the system hasn't detected that it's down yet. So the image just goes to a stale icon, and it will be cleared out on the next run of the site.
Okay.
Which happens every hour, by the way.
So can you sort these or anything like that? Do I have the ability to sort, like, can I sort it by largest videos, longest videos, shortest videos, alphabetically, or?
Yeah, I can. I just haven't implemented that yet.
Oh, okay. So
yeah.
Let me ask you this. What other features do you want to add? Where are you going with that?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So one of the features that I want to have is I want to implement a notification system for new videos, but I don't actually want to force people to use like a login system to be able to do that, because that's really complicated. I actually found the easiest way to be able to track videos, and that way is through the Telegram client. Like think about like, hey, I want to like subscribe to this. So you hit the subscribe and it opens up Telegram, and then there's a chat bot that starts chatting with you and says, what would you like to do? And now look, you don't even need an account, right? Because your Telegram has authenticated your account information. So you just go in and you start talking to the bot, and you're like, oh, I want to subscribe to Tim Pool. And then all of a sudden it's going to be like, okay. And then what happens is that 3 times, or whenever Tim Pool releases a new video, you're going to get a notification from your Telegram. You're going to look down, you're going to be like, oh, that's cool. And one of the things you'll notice, if you want to see what this looks like now, if you go to the website, you'll notice that for the independent, the populist, and the mainstream tabs, what's going to happen is a Telegram icon is going to appear, right? So look at the blue at the upper right.
Yeah.
See, if you click that, watch what happens. It's going to go view in Telegram. So go ahead and view in Telegram. Do you have it installed on your desktop?
Yeah.
Okay.
Come on. Let's go.
Oh, there it goes. It's opening up. Okay. Start messaging. You may need to. Okay. So there's a setup process here because you haven't set it up yet. But the thing is that if you had installed this, then what it's going to do is it's just going to allow you to chat with the bot and do whatever. So
Okay.
I want to use this in order to set up a custom notification scheme that is custom tailored to your schedule. So some people may be like, well, I only want like notifications in the morning, or I want to get them after 6 when I stop working and I'm like driving home. And so what I want to do is I want to create that custom sort of feel that's naturally intuitive. And I know that I can do it with a Telegram chatbot. And I am scheduled for another interview at the top of the hour. So, but I don't know if I got to go, but we've got 3 minutes left. I was wondering if I could go ahead and play this video now. That is over here on my left.
Okay. Let me give you back the screen. And can you take the screen?
I got it. Okay. You ready for this? All right, let's do it.
Blast.Video uncancels America. Hi there, my name is Zach Vorhies. You may know me as the Google whistleblower. And I think it's safe to say I hate censorship more than anyone else that I know. And that's the reason why I created Blast.Video, a new type of social media system called an aggregator. And the way that it cracks through censorship is that it scans open video platforms like Rumble, like BitChute, like Brighteon, like Gab TV, and looks for new content by the content creators that you love. It takes those new videos that it finds, it brings it under one single website called Blast.Video, where it serves it to you. Content creators like Joe Rogan, Project Veritas, Alex Jones and InfoWars, Bannon's War Room, Stu Peters, Next News Network, Rebel News, OAN, Newsmax, Epic Times. We feature independent creators like Awaken with JP, Dinesh D'Souza, Steven Crowder, Bongino Report, Andy No, Chrissy Mayer, Judicial Watch, Lex Friedman, Jordan Peterson, Jordan Sather, Ann Vandersteel, Glenn Beck, Ruben Report, Gothics, Sarah Carter, Viva Free, Charlie Kirk, Mr. Reagan, Lionel Nation, RSBN, Black Pigeon Speak, Scott Adams, Lauren Southern, Lauren Chen, Ben Shapiro, Dell Bigtree, Dix Hexenhammer, Gateway Pundit, Candace Owens, Quite Frankly, Freedom Tunes, We Are Changed, Jimmy Dore, Tim Pool, Anomaly, The Quartering, Black Conservative Patriot, Health Ranger Report, Matt Walsh, PragerU, Red Pill 78, Sarah Westall, SGT Reports. We scan a total of 250 content creators across platforms every single hour for fresh videos. It's like censorship never even happened to the conservative community. And I'm looking for your help to make Blast.Video the #1 spot in America for conservative news. The reason is because I want to create a better future. Future. In the future, there is no censorship of humans thanks to Blast.Video. And now I'm going to use this time machine to go back to the present. And it looks like Blast.Video couldn't come soon enough. So you may be asking yourself, when does Blast.Video launch? And I've got great news. If all goes well, Blast.Video will launch in 10 seconds. 9, 8, 7, 6. Blast.Video, no censorship of humans. Thanks for watching my video. Please share.
Your audio is gone.
So yeah, that's Blast.Video. I've got to go into a Twitter space to talk about Blast.Video. If you guys are sitting at home watching this, look, censorship has finally ended, and it's ended at Blast.Video. And I've been so proud to finally release this. And my gosh, Roger, everyone loves this site. It's amazing. It's like censorship never happened to the conservative community. And so
you want us to go to Give, Send, Go and go to BlastVideo and help support you to get this kicked off?
Yeah,
right
we're
there?
still kicking it off. We're in this like slow part, and I really should have lined up some big donors, but I was working on making sure that all the little bugs was like just worked out. It was working really great. And I like hockey sticked it at the end of the thing. Anyways, we're at 700 right now. We're looking for some foundational sponsors to help us get into that, like break 1,000, because like once you get beyond a certain number, then it starts going really fast. And I've got some big, great interviews coming out tomorrow and the next day. And so we're going to get that number up, and we're going to be able to hit that 125,000 mark. But right now it's a little bit slow. And so I'm just kind of cranking through, trying to get those views up. So check out my website, Blast.Video. Go to our Give, Send, Go, which is givesendgo.com/Blast.Video, and be part of the movement for free speech. And we're going to stay the course until the 2022 midterm elections. And then we're going to reevaluate, and we're going to try to push all the way until 2024, because America needs this more than ever. And unfortunately, I got to go.
Thanks, Zach. It was nice spending an hour with you.
Thank you very much, Roger. Take care.
I'll talk to you. Bye.
All right.
Bye.
Bye.